I hate crime. You know, some people have an idea that private detectives lead the perfect existence. But being a private eye isn't all it's cracked up to be. In the first place, you can't look forward to the day when you can retire on one of those little cottages in the country. Cows and chickens, etc. Because you don't know if you'll be above ground that long. Still, it has its compensations, which was just what I was thinking when... She walked into my office. She was a brunette, about 5'6", with all the trimmings. And she knew how to drape those trimmings. She wasted no time introducing herself.
I'm Wanda Graham.
Oh? Am I supposed to know you?
If you get around any, you should.
Well, I do get around, but I've got a bad memory for faces.
I won't give you the obvious answer to that. I work at the Cafe Nightingale. I'm a specialty dancer.
The one with the bubbles?
That's right.
Of course. I didn't recognize you with all those clothes on. Sit down, Miss Graham.
Thanks.
She sat, crossed her legs, and lighted a cigarette. Then she threw an envelope on my desk and told me to read what was inside. I did. It was a will signed by a Mr. John Sloan, dated March 16, 1947. It seemed that Sloan left all his worldly belongings to a Miss Nita Goodwin.
Does it look legal, Mr. Kent?
Yeah, it's witnessed and all that. What's the story?
Well, John Sloan's estate was valued at £1 million, and when he died a year ago, he had no family.
And I suppose the wrong person got his money.
Yes, Simon Carstairs. Know of him?
I've heard of him. Keep talking.
Simon was left all of John Sloan's estate, but the will awarding it to him was dated the 13th of February, 1947, over a month before this one.
Then Nita Goodwin was supposed to get his money, huh?
Exactly.
And just where is Nita Goodwin?
I'm Nita Goodwin.
Oh. How come you used the name Wanda Graham?
For 2 reasons. First, it's my professional name. Second, if Simon Carstairs knew I were alive, he'd do his darndest to arrange that I wasn't.
If he knew you were alive?
He's tried to kill me once already, and almost succeeded. 2 years ago, just before John Sloan died, I was run down by a car, a hit-and-run driver. I'm sure it was Simon.
What have you been doing all this time?
I was in a hospital near Prairie City, suffering from brain concussion. I didn't get my memory back till a few months ago. You see, Uncle John, that is, John Sloan, I've always called him Uncle John, had left everything to Simon Carstairs, thinking that Simon would take care of me. Then he discovered that Simon was not to be trusted, so he made out this will. Had it witnessed, but he was evidently unable to destroy the other will.
I see. How did you get the will?
It was given sealed to Uncle John's gardener, with instructions that I should receive it.
Who gave it to the gardener?
One of the men who witnessed it, William Latimer.
Where is Latimer now?
He was murdered, to keep him quiet.
How about this other witness on the will here, Cummings?
The same thing. That should give you an idea of the sort of man Carstairs is.
Yeah. So the gardener gave you the will, huh?
Yes. He saw me in town a week ago and gave it to me.
Something doesn't fit. Surely Carstairs knows you've recovered.
But he doesn't. I arranged to have a false letter sent to him from the hospital, informing him that I was dead and buried.
Very interesting, Miss Goodwin.
Please call me Wanda Graham. Wanda, preferably.
Okay. Wanda. But now, just what do you expect me to do?
I want you to act on my behalf.
How?
See Carstairs. Tell him what we have on him and get some money. He'll pay.
That's blackmail, you know.
It's justice.
Not legal justice. This is a case for the police.
No. I know Carstairs. If I made this public, he'd never rest till he found a way to kill me.
At that rate, he'd lose no time killing me.
I've heard you didn't worry about little things like that. Please, Mr. Kent. After all, I'm entitled to the money, and I'm prepared to pay a very nice fee. I need that money. I need it badly. And I'm afraid.
This is well outside my usual code of ethics. However...
Then you'll take it?
Only because I'm curious. But I warn you that I might change my mind without notice. And I'm not promising you a thing.
I accept the conditions. You won't regret doing this, Mr. Kent.
She gave me her address and some more information I needed about Carstairs. Then as she left, she took my hand and gave it a warm little squeeze, accompanied by an even warmer smile that had more than a promise in it. When she was gone, I thought things over and decided I was being a 14-carat dope. But I'd been a fool more than once before. Besides, she was beautiful. So I went out into the street and hailed a cab.
Where to, mate?
27 Willow Lane.
Carstairs' place, eh? Okay, I'm going that way.
So I started out to see Simon Carstairs, reflecting on the way how nice it would be to possess the independence of a cab driver. Well, I arrived there okay, paid the driver, walked up to the big oak door, dropped the heavy brass knocker. A hawk-faced butler I wouldn't trust near the silverware poked out his face at me.
Yes, sir?
I'd like to see Simon Carstairs.
Do you have an appointment?
I don't need any. Just tell him I want to see him about £1 million, a girl, and a piece of paper. He'll see me.
Please come in and wait, sir.
Well, I walked into the place and looked around. The joint was big enough for a game of baseball. The butler disappeared, and in a few minutes, a guy who looked like an ad in a Saturday Evening Post walked in. He wore a dressing gown of velvet and a wicked look, camouflaged very badly with a big smile.
Clemens, my butler, says you wish to see me on a matter of great importance.
That's right. You're Mr. Carstairs, aren't you?
Yes?
My name is Larry Kent. I'm a private investigator.
Oh, yes. I read about you in the newspaper last week. Just what is it you wish to see me about, Mr. Kent?
Just like I told your butler. About £1 million, a girl, and a piece of paper.
Sorry, but I don't quite follow you.
I think you do.
I'm afraid you'll have to explain further, Mr. Kent.
He was stalling for time. I could see it written all over his face. And then I saw something else in his face, so I turned around quickly, just in time to catch a glimpse of the butler swinging a bottle. I twisted and it glanced off my shoulder. Then I brought my knee up and took a roundhouse swing at his jaw. Meanwhile, Carstairs was heading for the cupboard, so I pulled out my gun and he stopped short. Well, that's a good boy, Simon. Now sit down. That's right. Okay, now why the bun rush? Come on, talk, or I'll knock out every tooth in your ugly skull. I don't enjoy having my head become a target for whiskey bottles.
I hope you know what you're doing, Kent.
We'll skip that. Talk.
What do you want me to talk about?
I want to know why the mention of £1 million, a girl, and a piece of paper makes you want to have my skull cracked.
I just thought you were a crank or something. Clemens was merely trying to grasp you from behind.
Yeah, with a bottle in his hand? Oh, you'll have to do better than that.
Whatever your game is, Kent, you're barking up the wrong tree.
I don't think so. I've got a client who claims you've robbed her of £1 million.
Her? She wouldn't be a blonde with a dimple in her chin, would she?
No. Why?
There was a woman who was my fiancée. When I called our affair quits, she swore to get me. This might be her way of doing it.
Maybe you deserved getting. The will my client showed me looked like the real thing.
I imagine your client expects to get some money out of me.
Something like that.
What was your cut going to be?
A big fat payment for services rendered.
How fat?
Oh, maybe 10 or 15,000.
Would you be interested in 25,000?
I might be.
And I might be interested in giving it to you for services rendered. The service in this case being the delivery of a piece of paper. Bring me the will and I'll give you the money in cash.
I'll think about it. Suppose we meet each other tonight and talk it over.
Very well. Where?
The Green Dragon Cafe at about 7.
The Green Dragon at 7. I'll be there. Will you have the piece of paper?
We'll discuss that later on. But before I go, this girl you tossed over, what was her name?
Dolly Carter. She was a showgirl.
Showgirl, huh? A blonde with a dimple in her chin. Nice figure?
Yes.
Okay, Carstairs, I'll see you later. By the way, your butler's coming round. Give him a good stiff drink and he'll be all right. And while you're at it, take a drink yourself. You don't look so good. I went to my flat and mulled things over. A blonde with a nice figure and a dimple in her chin. Nita Goodwin, alias Wanda Graham, had a very nice figure. And a dimple in her chin, too. But she was a brunette. That is, she seemed to be a brunette. But evidently she'd missed a trip to her hairdresser's because I had looked closely at her dark tresses and right at the scalp line there were traces of new hair growing. It was blonde hair. I phoned Wanda and invited her to have dinner. She didn't go on at the Cafe Nightingale till 9 or so. At 7 o'clock, we walked into the Green Dragon Cafe. I saw Carstairs in a corner, and I led Wanda over. There was a funny look on Carstairs' face, and I felt Wanda's arms stiffen.
Get me out of here, Kent.
Why, honey? Don't you like the place?
Never mind. Just get me out of here.
Sorry, it's too late. I want you to meet a fella. Hello, Carstairs. Allow me to introduce...
It's not necessary, Kent. The lady and I know each other. I prefer you with blonde hair, Dolly.
Dolly? Hey, something's wrong here, Carstairs. She's got 2 names already.
I'm not surprised. Sit down, Dolly.
Why did you bring me here, Mr. Kent?
Because I'm curious.
This girl is, I presume, your client.
She is.
What a small world. This is the girl I was telling you about.
Dolly Carter, huh? The one you tossed over.
He never tossed me over. I just knew too much about him, that's all.
Too much for your own good. What made you think you'd get away with this little masquerade? You told Kent you were Nita Goodwin, didn't you?
She did.
Listen to me, Mr. Kent. The truth is that Nita Goodwin died in that hospital. But before she died, she called for me and gave me the will.
Get it from her, Kent.
Shut up and let her finish. Wanda, why didn't Nita Goodwin take the will to the police?
Because she hated Carstairs so much, she wanted to see the police get him. She wanted to be right there, see the look on his face. The longer he was free, the harder it'd take it when they did get him. Her yearning for revenge kept her alive. But then when she knew she was finally going to die, she called for me and gave me the will, knowing that I hate Carstairs as much as she did. Which side are you on, Mr. Kent?
Right now, I'm sitting on the fence.
Don't forget, my offer of 25,000 still stands.
I said I was on the fence, Carstairs. Wanda, you'd better go to your flat. I'll stay here and see that he doesn't follow you.
When will I see you again?
Tomorrow. That is, if I'm still alive. After Wanda left the Green Dragon, I stayed behind with Carstairs to keep him from shadowing her to her flat. He tried his best to sell me a bill of goods.
25,000's a lot of money for a private investigator, Kent.
You know something, Carstairs? I'm getting a bit sick of hearing you mention 25,000.
Take my word for it, Kent. You'll get a lot sicker if you think seriously about playing along with Dolly.
Sounds like a threat.
Hear it any way you wish to hear it. But remember, I mean it.
I believe you do. But get this and get it straight. You don't scare me a bit. You just irritate me.
If you're trying to sound like a storybook detective, you're making a bad job of it.
Now I'm sure I don't like you.
Think over my proposition, Kent. But I caution you, I am not a patient man. I'll give you till tomorrow night to make up your mind.
And if I don't decide to play ball?
Time will tell. Good night, Kent.
I'm not being a hero when I say that Carstairs didn't worry me in the least, but something else was worrying me. For the first time in my life, I'd walked into something that was completely the business of the police. If I sided with Wanda, then I was engaging in blackmail and withholding information. If I took Carstairs' offer, it was even worse. There was only one thing to do, and that was to present the whole affair to the authorities. And I made up my mind to do it. But I had to tip off Wanda and get the will from her. I left my flat and hailed a cab. As the cab pulled to a stop and I gave the driver the address, I noticed a fellow loitering near the entrance to my block of flats. After I got into the cab, I stole a quick glance through the rear window. The guy jumped into a Buick at the corner and drove behind us. I didn't look again, but I changed my instructions to the driver. Make that the corner of Silver Street, will you?
All right, mate. What's the matter? Forget something?
It's more like I remembered something. When we hit the corner of Silver Street, I noticed that the Buick had pulled up a street behind me. I picked the first block of flats I saw and walked in. At the top of the stairway, I turned left and stood up against the wall. I had only a few seconds to wait. Looking for me, pal? I hit him with everything I had. I left him lying there and went out to hail another cab. In 10 minutes, I was at Wanda's flat, and this time, no one had followed me. No answer. I went to a landlady's flat.
Yes.
Pardon me, but I was to pick up Miss Graham this evening.
You were? Well, you just missed her. She left a few minutes ago.
Did she say where she was going?
Why, to the Cafe Nightingale. She works there.
Yes, I know, but I didn't think she was working tonight. Thanks.
That's all right.
It was at that moment I reckon Wanda rated high on curves but low on brains. Carstairs knew she was a showgirl, and by this time he'd probably found out where she worked. I grabbed another cab and went to the Cafe Nightingale. Wanda was just finishing her routine as the head waiter led me to a table. She smiled at me, and I gave her a nod. She nodded back in answer. I waited at the table for a couple of minutes, and then she came across the floor, smiling.
You said you wouldn't see me till tomorrow.
I changed my mind.
Have you made up your mind yet about my offer?
Yeah?
Then you'll go in it with me?
No. And I'm not going in with Carstairs either.
The police?
Yeah, it's the only way, Wanda.
You're afraid.
If I am, it wouldn't be the first time. Carstairs won't pay you, not a cent. Right now he's working on a plan to get the will. When he has that, he'll destroy it and you'll have nothing at all on him. And to get the will, he'll stop at nothing.
And I thought you had nerve.
I've got more common sense. There's only one place to bring things like this, and that's police headquarters. With them on your side, you'll get protection. If you start fooling around with Carstairs, you'll end up with a bullet.
Not if I go to South Africa.
He'd have you watched every minute. You'd never start for South Africa. Take my word for it, beautiful, you lose both ways. Carstairs would get his money back, and you'd get a permanent 6-foot-deep plot for yourself.
What do you expect me to do?
Get the will and come with me to police headquarters before it's too late.
How can I be sure you won't take the will for yourself and do business with Carstairs?
I'll call up Inspector Moran if you like, and the three of us will get the will together. Use your head, Wanda. You hate Carstairs. This is the only way to get your revenge.
I do hate him.
Then how about it?
I'll go back and get my coat. Wait for me at the bar, will you?
I went out to the bar and ordered a scotch and soda. I finished that and ordered another one. When I finished that, I looked at my watch. I'd been waiting 30 minutes. I got off the bar stool and I felt a hand on my shoulder.
Where are you going, Kent?
Carstairs.
Don't look so surprised. Have a drink with me.
No, thanks.
I suppose you'd like to know what I'm doing here.
I'm not the least bit interested. But I do know that you're not out to have a good time.
What's your hurry, Kent? Where are you going?
For a walk.
I think you'd better wait a minute. Here comes a friend of yours, Inspector Moran.
Hello, Larry. Trust you to be in on the scene of the crime.
Scene of the scene of what crime?
From what I can make out, it's murder. A balloon dancer, Wanda Graham, stabbed in the back.
While I'd been waiting for Wanda, someone had stabbed her in her dressing room. Another girl found the body and phoned the police. Inspector Moran held us all and started questioning various people in the cafe. I considered telling the inspector about the will and decided I'd be wasting valuable time. By then, the man who had killed Wanda had probably found her address and was searching a flat for the will. Her purse had been rifled. I got the inspector in a corner.
What is it, Larry?
Do me a favor, will you, Inspector?
What kind of a favor?
Just do as I say without asking any questions, and I'll make all my explanations later. Let me go now and hold Carstairs. The fellow I was talking to when you came in, for at least another 2 hours.
But why? Oh, all right, Larry. You've done me some favors in the past.
Thanks, Moran. I'll get in touch with you later. I took a cab to Wanda's flat, and this time nobody followed me. I had to get that will before Carstairs did. And I knew I was taking a heck of a chance, but I had to risk it. When I got to her flat, I stood outside the door for a few minutes. There wasn't a sound inside. I took my skeleton keys from my pocket. The fifth one opened the door. I stepped inside, and then... Oh! The next thing I remembered was waking up with a face sneering down at me. The face belonged to Simon Carstairs.
So you're coming round, Mr. Kent.
Why do you bother to let me come around?
Because we've got unfinished business.
The will, huh? Got a better proposition to offer?
You're in no position to make deals.
You're not in a position to refuse one.
I offer your life and £25,000. Tell me where it is, and I'll give you the money and let you go.
Don't make me laugh.
Then you offer me a proposition.
I stalled for a while till my head cleared. He hadn't found the will. There was still a chance for me. So I made a deal. I told him the will was hidden in Wanda's flat, that he couldn't find it in a month of Sundays unless he knew where it was. I said that I'd go with him to get the will, but that we'd go alone. Finally, he agreed. We got into his car and he started to drive. He held a pearl-handle automatic in his hand on the steering wheel, and he kept one eye on me. If I made a wrong move, all he had to do was press the trigger, and I'd get it in the stomach. So I kept still. But we hit the heavy traffic, and a truck swerved close. For a split second, he concentrated on the road. And in that split second, I grabbed the steering wheel hard and twisted. The next thing I knew, I was on my back in the rear seat. The car was on its right side. I looked towards Carstairs and looked away quick. The steering wheel shaft had gone right through his chest. The glass in the window was shattered, but not enough for me to squeeze through, so I took off my shoe and belted it. I'm lucky I have big feet, I guess. I climbed out and walked away, and then sat down to watch the car burn. I was sitting there when a police car pulled up on the highway. A policeman came towards me and started to say something. But my words just got twisted up, and I drifted down a long passageway. When I woke up, there was white all around me, through a blue haze. and I heard Inspector Moran's voice like in a dream.
What's it all about, Larry? Is it connected with the murder at the Nightingale? Is it, Larry? Larry! Larry!
I spoke, but I haven't got any idea of what I said. It was hours or days later when I was able to sit up. When I could think straight, Moran came to see me. There was a great big smile on his ugly pan.
Great work, Larry, great. In one swoop, we've cleaned up 4 murders, thanks to you.
Then you found the will?
Yep, we turned Wanda's flat inside out and it wasn't there. Then we made a check on all the city banks and found out that she had a safety deposit box. We opened the box and there it was.
Fine. You ought to give me a job on the police force, Moran.
I would if you'd take it.
No, thanks.
Larry, I can't understand one thing.
What's that?
Why did you accept the case? There was nothing in it for you but trouble all the way.
Well, I took it, Moran, because I guess I'm a sucker for a pretty dame and a good line. But you're right. Wherever there's a pretty dame concerned, there is nothing but trouble. And this time I've learned my lesson.
Excuse me, Mr. Kent. Would you like your back rubbed again?
Would I? I certainly would, nurse.
Then I'll return after the visiting hour.
Well, leave it to Larry Kent to get himself the prettiest nurse in Australia.
Inspector, do me a favor, will you? Get your ugly pan out of here. As far as I'm concerned, the visiting hour is now over. I spent 2 weeks in that hospital and got to know the nurse very well. Then when I was released, I took her out to dinner one night and I got to know her even better. As a matter of fact, I got to know her too well. That's why now I'm wearing this beautiful black eye. Yep, a pretty dame brings nothing but trouble. Good night.